Welcome back to On Texas Basketball. I'm Jeff Howe, joined as always by Gerry Hamilton. This edition of On Texas Basketball brought to you by Von Lane. I want to thank Von Lane for their sponsorship of everything we've got going on at On Texas Football. Jerry got a little bit of everything to cover here with hoops this week. Let's start with the SEC schedule. We don't know dates, we don't know times, but we know opponents and locations for Sean Miller's first conference schedule. I think, Jerry, the one thing that really surprised me was I was expecting Arkansas to be the third team Texas would have a home and home with, other than A&M and Oklahoma, but it's Georgia. Other than that, Jerry, kind of what we expected the schedule would be for Texas this season.
Yeah, so it's a great home schedule. And I know Texas fans are like, our non-con's not very good, but it's a great conference home schedule because you have the defending national champs, Todd Golden, coming in. You have LSU, you love to hate him. You have Chris Beard coming in. Yeah. Chris Beard coaching his first game in the Moody since his last game in the Moody. So you have that one. You have Oklahoma, obviously. You have A&M, new coaching staff. So it's actually a really good home slate. Last year's was awesome as well because you had Alabama, you had Auburn, you had John Calipari, and you had Kentucky all at home, plus Rick Barnes and A&M and Oklahoma. But I think it's a good home slate for Texas. The road slate, I think, is really difficult for the Longhorns, Jeff. I mean, you look at it, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn. Georgia's obviously going to be a competitive team, made the tournament last year. Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, A&M. All but one of those was an NCAA tournament team last year. And you're playing – that's a brutal road schedule. And I don't think the SEC is going to be quite as good this year as it was last year. It's going to be talented, just different. I think last year was an all-time type of year for a league. But that road schedule is really difficult for Texas. I mean, you're going into some of the toughest places to play with a number of Hall of Fame coaches.
I think a couple things, Jerry. I think one, this probably tells you how Sean Miller is going to need to round out the non-conference schedule to have a chance to get to 20 wins and make sure you're on the right side of the bubble come tournament time. But the emphasis, the onus on protecting home court, other than Florida, Jerry, those are manageable games, and you need to win a heck of a lot more at home than you lose to feel good about yourself come Selection Sunday.
Yeah, no pressure, Sean Miller. This year you cannot lose to Chris Beard, Oklahoma, or A&M in Austin. And the fans could probably handle an OU loss as long as you beat Chris Beard. And totally agree. The non-con is going to is Duke neutral, which is not neutral. It's in Charlotte. So at Duke, you're just not in Cameron. And then you're at UConn. And then you have Virginia at home in the ACC Big 12 matchup. So there's two tremendously tough road games in non-con, but that's also opportunity. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all this unfolds. Texas, I do think, is still going to add another player to this roster, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
Jerry, let's talk about the team workouts. Individual workouts been going on for a while. Now they're getting into team stuff. What's an interesting nugget or two you're hearing coming out from the practice facility right now?
One of the things I've heard is that Texas fully expects Simeon Wiltshire to be a better shooter from three than he was at St. John's. And some people say, well, he has to be, and he does have to be. He was 29-7 from three last year. But even Rick Pitino didn't believe that was Simeon Wiltshire's capability. And then Dalen Swain. I think there's some thought that he's going to be an improved shooter. I think he's got a little bit of a slower release, but he's getting better every year shooting the basketball from the perimeter. And Texas is going to need both of those guys. So Cam Heidi's going to shoot it well. Tremont Mark's going to shoot it well. Jordan Pope's going to shoot it well. By the way, Texas is not at full strength right now. Tremont Mark is still out after minor shoulder surgery on a non-shooting shoulder. They're just going to take things slow with him. Lucina Traore is not fully released yet. They're going to take things slow with him. And then Louis Obiora, the 7-foot signee out of London, does not get in until August. And then I think there's going to be one more player added to this roster. Also, Matas has been very impressive. I think there's a thought, his body's he's getting more streamlined. He's got good feet, got good motor, got really good hands. They're really working to build his skill level. He has to play without fouling as much on the defensive end. But I think there's a thought that after 2 years, he may be an NBA prospect. And if that becomes the case, then Texas has multiple NBA prospects on this team. So I think John Clark has looked good early on at Texas. I think Texas is excited about the 6'9" freshman out of Houston that trained and played AAU ball with TJ Ford Academy and TJ Ford Elite there in Missouri City. And I think Nick Cody's done a good job as well. So I think the early returns are Texas really likes their roster, even though they're not working at the full roster right now. And there continues to be expectation they're going to add another player. And it's gone from adding potentially another guard to maybe adding another big man. So there could be another 6'11", 7-footer on the horizon for Texas.
Jerry, that makes sense and leads me into something I wanted to talk about. I'm glad you brought it up just a minute ago. You're pretty stacked in terms of your guard rotation with veteran guys that have played a lot of college basketball. And in that vein, you mentioned Tremont Mark, getting him healthy. Tremont Mark's played 136 games in his career. A lot of mileage. That dude, there's not much in college basketball that dude hasn't seen. Jerry, do you feel like Sean Miller and his staff almost need to treat him like you treat a running back, where it's like, don't worry about anything. Just make sure he gets to November 4th against Duke and we'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing about guard is you pretty much run 4-man guard rotations in college basketball. You have 4 guys, and then you have a minor role player as your 5th guard. Well, where Texas is going right now is Dalen Swain's that 5th in a big lineup because he does have guard vision and guard skills. He just doesn't shoot it from 3 like you ideally want him to do. But again, if he ends up shooting 32, 33% from 3 this year, he's going to be – he may be off to the NBA draft. We'll see. But that's where Texas is headed. They're going to go bigger at guard than they have in the past, and they're going to be bigger on the interior. But I think the thing about adding another interior player, if that's where this goes, is you protect yourself if Lucina has any setbacks with his knee. And you can also limit his minutes early in the season. And Luis Obiora is going to be, even though he's got a ton of upside, he's not a guy that's probably going to play this year. He's a 7-1 guy that's going to redshirt and bring him along and develop him both in your strength and conditioning program and his skill level in his first year in college. And then around that, you have 2 freshmen, or you have Nick Cody's a sophomore, but essentially a freshman in playing time. And then you have a true freshman in Nick Cody around that. So I think that's what you're going to see with Texas. If they add another big, those are the reasons why. And why they wouldn't add another guard is I think they're going to play some big lineups. And that 5th guard right now is going to be Dylan Swain.
Jerry, if you're Sean Miller, just put your Sean Miller cap on. You're in that chair right now. Do you need one of Simeon Wiltshire or Jordan Pope to hit their stride and be consistent and be the kind of player that we've seen them be when it's good on a regular basis? Or does Texas really need both of those guys to get to where they want to be this season?
I think I'm going to throw another name. I think they need Kendall Weaver and Simeon Wiltshire. I think we know what Mark and Jordan Pope are going to do. I mean, I think Jordan Pope's a little underrated within the Texas fan base. I mean, that guy averaged 17.5 points in the Pac-12 2 years ago, and he was a double-figure scorer in the SEC. He is what he is as a player, and I think the more the player movement and playing on the move is going to help him greatly under Sean Miller versus what we saw in more isolation basketball when offense broke down under Rodney Terry. So I think we know what we're going to get from Mark and Pope. I really think it's Weaver. How much can you expand his offensive game, and how much is playing on the move more going to help him? But then I think Wiltshire's the big one, Jeff. Wiltshire's got pro potential. I'm not saying he's going to be a first-round pick or second-round pick, but he's got pro potential. He's had it since he came out of high school. Texas needs him to be that 12, 13 point per game score, which means he would be shooting 36 to 38% from 3 and more of a playmaker and take that next step from year 2 to year 3 as a player. Again, I think he is the key from a guard perspective for this team next year, knowing what you're going to get from Tremont Mark and Jordan Pope.
Jerry, let's talk recruiting a little bit. Sean Miller and staff, they've been out offering 2026s. They've been offering 2027s. The staff has been busy. Which offers have caught your eye that have gone out lately?
Yeah, so I think the big one for me is Reese Alston. Rayford Alston skipped to my lose son, the point guard from Second Baptist. They offered about 6'20", 27 guys. He was one of them. Dawson Batee, the son of Derek Batee, former South Oak Cliff star, Temple star, nephew of Tony Batee, who was a star at South Oak Cliff, Texas Tech, and a first-round pick in the NBA. And then Marcus Spears Jr., who had already been offered, but son of Marcus Spears. His older sister plays volleyball at Texas. There's a lot of name ID in the 27 class, as well as the 26 class, because Austin Gooseby, Trevor Gooseby's brother, by the way, was just offered by Duke. Congrats to him. He'll visit Texas in September. And then Bo Ogden just transferred to Austin Westlake, the son of Texas GM Chris Ogden there. But there's an awful lot of name ID in the state of Texas right now, Jeff. It's real easy to see when you see a name, kind of say, oh, okay, I at least know something about this player, and that's helpful in recruiting. And Texas has offered, I think, 16 guys right now in the 26 class. The whole key, and I think all the colleges are having a struggle with this right now, is especially after RevShare comes in the play. How many high school guys are you actually going to take in a class?
Yeah.
Look, there's going to be a lot of two-man classes, if you ask me. Maybe third is a straight developmental guy. But I think you're going to – how many high school guys you actually take in these classes is going to be interesting. So Texas offered 6 or 7 2027s. It's probably only one, maybe two of those guys will be in a high school class or a college class for Texas. So it's really interesting kind of to see where all this is headed after RevShare in college basketball. Because I think we're going to see more and more portal. And then the other thing that's making high school basketball recruiting more interesting now is there's more guys internationally that have been pros, that have played pro ball internationally, that are wanting to come to college because of NIL now. And now the kicker with that's going to be, how do you recruit these guys? Because I think the NCAA is going to come down and say, if you've played pro ball for 2 years overseas, then you have a 2-year window in college. So then that's going to make these guys have decisions. They're going to be forced into decisions. Do you want the more upside 1-year guy that's played pro ball in Europe versus the guy that may have 2 years left that's really coming and look to play for one and be done? I think it's going to be fascinating, but there's more European or overseas players trying to get to the States to play college basketball than ever by a large margin. And what that's going to do is push high school kids down and make you take less high school kids for a lot of programs.
Jerry, two-parter here to wrap it up. Have you gotten a feel for Sean Miller in terms of whether he wants to be a developmental program, whether he wants kind of a mix across the board? And to win in college basketball, can you be more in on being a developmental guy or a portal guy? Do you need a mix across the board to be a team that's a program that's contender for the Final Four year in a year out?
I think it's a mix and developmental. I think player development, and you talk to people, and that is really Sean Miller's strength. Is he is a great player developmental coach, but I think you have to have enough frontline talent, right? I mean, you look at the Final Four last year. I mean, Walter Clayton was a developmental player for Florida, but he's going to be a first-round pick. Luke Condon, the big man who came back, is going to be an NBA player. And then they have 3 overseas guys on that team, maybe one more pro. You look at Houston, it's the same thing. And you look at Auburn, obviously Johnny Broom's going to be a first, second round. So you have to have enough of that to Hot Pettiford as a future NBA player for Auburn. You have to have a couple of those NBA pieces for sure. But you also really better be great in player development, because these need to be – college basketball needs to be less one-and-dones and more 2-year guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's what to expect for Sean Miller. And I'm not saying it's a copycat thing, but you want to be where Florida is. And it's easy to say, hey, I won a national title. But Todd Gold didn't make the NCAA tournament his first year at Florida. And people are like, they hired the wrong guy. I mean, think about that now. But he put together a team that would play multiple years together. But you still have to develop those guys. I think that the days of just a bunch of one-and-dones, and Duke almost got it done, but that was with a generational player.
Yeah.
I think for 99.9% of the programs, the player development piece and putting teams together for 2 years is going to be the key.
It's interesting to think about, Jerry, and we could be here all day talking about it, but that's the track Chris Beard was on when he was at Texas.
Oh yeah.
Now he's doing it at Ole Miss, and we'll get to see what that looks like head up. He's had it a couple years in Oxford now. Interesting home schedule for Texas because he'll bring his team to Austin against Sean Miller's team, what that team looks like year one. I'm excited, Jerry. I want to see this team grow together and see what it looks like when you get in the heart of SEC play. Jerry, thank you for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Thank you to the entire On Texas Football staff. If you're not a member, over to ontexasfootball.com. Head over there right now. Use the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access for $39.95. We've got team coverage, we've got recruiting, we've got basketball recruiting, we've got hoops notes, we've got baseball portal, and we've even got softball portal information for you over there. So get over to ontexasfootball.com. Get it all right now for $39.95 for 1 year. Again, use the promo code OTFOG. And don't forget the On Texas Basketball Instagram account. We've got graphics, we've got videos, we got all kinds of fun stuff over there for you if you're on Instagram at On Texas Basketball on Instagram. For Gerry Hamilton, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and until next time, welcome.